Hello there. Thank you for joining me once again. Today we're going to be doing the lesson/analysis to last week's Arcadia Say the Word. And this is kind of going to be the opposite of the analysis for the promise, because the promise was a crazy bass line against a rather simple harmonic structure. This song, the harmonic structure is a bit more complex, whereas the bass line is rather simple, comparatively simple. Still a lot of cool licks that Mark Egan is doing there, but definitely nowhere near the craziness of the promise. All right, so I got some good news and I got some bad news. Let's start with the bad news. The bad news is just about 40 minutes ago, I cut myself rather badly. It's a rather deep cut. The story is not that important. It's rather mundane, so I hope that's not going to affect my playing. Oddly, didn't feel too bad playing, and I don't hear much of a tonal difference, surprisingly. So we're going to soldier on. The good news is I still have the Pedulla. The Pentabuzz will be with us for a bit more. Medieval Mike was going back out of town again, so he said, hey, no point in it just being at my house while I'm out of town. Why don't you keep it till I get back? So awesome. The other bit of good news is it is Thursday, July the 3rd. And like probably most of you, at least in the US, there is no work tomorrow, courtesy of the 4th of July holiday. So we have a 3-day weekend. And that has started now. So cheers. All right, let's get right to it. Right away, there is a tricky part. Let me play a bit of the intro. So that drum lick, you just have to memorize it. Clink, clink, clunk, gong, pa. Let's listen again. So that's an anticipation, right? Clink, clink, clunk. And that sets up what you're doing with the chords. The chords are D minor, A minor, B flat, G. So and something really crazy happens the last two chords. So on that anticipation, so think of a bar as being broken down into 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now multiply that and you get eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you're doing those anticipations on the and. So that would be the last eighth note. Gang gang. When you go to that G, that anticipatory eighth note becomes the downbeat. And it's not really obvious when you listen to it because it just feels fine. But if you throw it in your DAW and you do a click track and then you try to let the song play, it's completely off because you have to redo the 1. That anticipatory eighth note becomes the 1. Try to listen for that. And at least on the bass, it does whole notes. Sorry, it does half notes. So it goes. And then it does chord notes. And then we get into that stab. So that's just E minor. But what's really happening here is kind of an E minor ninth. So the notes for an E minor ninth would be, right? Let's use both hands. And you'll hear why I'm going to call it an E minor ninth, because it doesn't take long for that to appear. Let's listen. See? Crazy, right? Let's just do that one more time. I'm doing that as just those double stops. I'm really just trying to get that top note correct and get the flavor of it. I can't say that I dragged it into a music separation software and really learned the parts. I'm just learning it, let's just say cover band style, right? Just good enough. And then it does a cool little variation of that. Just keep listening. So with the double stops. And then it just goes back to, but it actually ends higher. Listen. It does that A. So instead of an E minor 9th, you could say it does an E minor 11th. So it's a real jazzy chord, right? Because then you get this. So I thought that was really cool. Let's keep listening. So another one of those. And that's minor. This song employs a trick. Well, it's not a trick, but minor to major. Gives you an instant lift. But we still have to finish the verse and get through the bridge. It's nothing we could learn at school. So there's actually not much keyboard there unless that's a sample, but I think it's guitar just going. Something like that. I'm not saying that's the exact part. I think it's guitar. Well, to survive in me. That's it, just. And then we're going to get into the bridge section. The chords for the bridge section are A minor, D, that's major, back to A minor, then D major, and then F to C, and then we segue into E major. Okay, so let's listen. Innocent, but after all. And then the D. Back to the. Into the D. And then the Hey Mister. And then major. So let's get to that. Oh, and the system can be disobeyed. So when we call. Let's fast forward a little bit. So it sounds like the inversion there is like this. And then we're into the chorus. And then it's the same stab that you do in the verse, but it's major because it's the chorus, so it's going to get that lift. Then it gets real interesting because I hear a sus thing happening there, and I would do it lower in the register like this. Let's listen. So. That's kind of how I hear it. It may be going. Or maybe like. But definitely there's that sus, the A. So that would be the sus, the fourth. Now, here it gets even crazier because the stabs are doing something that are more like the verse chord when we were doing that E minor 9th. So I'm just gonna call it like, yeah, I mean it's E, but the stabs are gonna go F sharp, B, D, F sharp. So let's try to listen and then we'll see if we can recreate it. Something like that, right? So again, against the E, you're playing these notes. And then back to the E major, the stabs. Of course, they're played on different patches. I'm just keeping it simple here. So let's keep going. And then there's a cool little so just B, G, A, and then this E down here. All right, let's keep listening. Lights is down. And we're back to the verse, and then that's going to do another bridge into another chorus. So let's fast forward. So right there, it's kind of ambiguous because of the type of sounds that Nick is throwing there. But I'm going to say that to get the flavor of it, I would do something like just E major, and then listen. So I'm not sure if that bottom note is really going to a D, because it's that sound. It's that sound there that's happening. It's like a room. So I don't really know if it's just the sound that kind of has a tonality of a D, or if it's actually doing a D. But as long as you're hitting those notes, G sharp, G natural, and then that F sharp, you'll get there. And then after that, we just go back into the beginning chords, the D minor. Let's listen. Does that look again? And there we go again. I love that sound there too, like a wolf howling there, right? It's pretty awesome. And same thing. So you had, same chords, D minor. And then out of that, we just go into a chorus. All right, so it's just going to fade out, and time for bass. Future me here. As oftentimes happens, I remembered that I forgot to feature something that I really wanted to show. So it is very early on the actual 4th of July now, and here I am trying to show you guys the cool drum part. Here we go. Let's listen to it real quick. So what's really cool is that Roger is hitting the bass drum on 3 with the snare. That's not something you'd normally do. I'll try to illustrate it. And with the hi-hats, it would be something like this. So that doesn't feel natural to a drummer to do that, to hit that on beat 3 with the snare. But it's not very difficult either. Anyhow, just thought that was a really cool part. All right, now let's get to bass. This bass line is not very complicated. We're going to start off with D to A to B flat to G. And there's a bit of anticipation there. And remember, the last anticipation on the G becomes your downbeat. So one, two, three, four. Simple as that. So those notes are E, and then you're going to do this hammer on D to E, back to 2 more E's, and then B, B, D, E, B, B, G, F sharp. Now you notice I go down here to do that, because I'd rather do that than go On a 5-string, of course, you could go. But I think that it just, I don't know, it doesn't sound right to me. Do it the way it feels funkiest to you. Hear those ghost notes I'm doing there? I don't think he's really doing them in the song, but it feels right to me, so I do them on occasion. It's really quite straight. It swings, but it's quite straight. Try to do it straight first, and then incorporate all the funky ghost notes and substitutions. So there's a cool lick into it, into the bridge. It goes. Or you could do it up here. Doesn't matter. I think it swings a little more up here. So it's E, B, E, G, G sharp. After that, we're going to do the B section of the verse, which is does a slide there. Okay, so after that, it just goes back to the. But let's go back to the B section of the verse, and I'll show you the notes. So it's just. So A to G, A, C, A. And then this run is E, G, A, C, C sharp. E, G, A, C, C sharp. So that's E, G, A, C, C sharp. And then the same pattern as the A part, but up here on the C. So C. And then that's major, so it's an F sharp. D, D, C, D, C. Let's try that again. D, D, C, D, F sharp, D. And then it's D, C, E, G, G sharp. And then back to the. And then here we're going to do like a hammer on to the D from the C. Really, the lick is just, but you're embellishing it by going. And then back to the F. So that's F, A, B. That's B natural, by the way. Just kind of does a slide up there, and then you're into the. So that just repeats. Then out of that, we go into like an instrumental section, and then we just repeat that whole formula. Verse, B part of the verse, go into the. And then into another chorus. Then out of that second chorus, you're going to go into what we'll call the bridge. Now, just for fun, what I did for the bridge, and I'll just put it up here if you want to have the same amount of fun that I did. Every time you see a little explosion, that means that that's where he does a slide. So it comes in, and then you're pretty much resting for 2 bars. And then right around 3.5 beats, it does a boom, and then you just keep following that. So you know exactly where to do the whatever you want to do. Right? It's just all about having fun. And then out of that, we go into the same chords as the beginning. And that's it. That's pretty much the whole song. Now I do want to point out in the very beginning, after you get out of the G, there's kind of a hard ghost note. Listen. So instead of going, he hit a ghost note there. I think that is really cool. There's a couple of, variations here and there. Like in the second verse, instead of going, he goes. So like he dropped a note, or maybe he came in late, so he said, F it, I'll just do instead of. And there are a couple of other little things like that. Sometimes I hear things and I wonder, wow, is that a tape splice or just a weird punch-in, or was that meant to be there? So that's pretty much the bass for Say the Word. Hope you learned something. Hope you thought that was fun. Hope you have a great 4th of July if you're in the US, and if you're not, I hope you have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.